The NACADA launch of their Rapid Results Initiative, the Cabinet Secretary for Interior, Dr. Fred Matiang'i, is addressing that gathering. Let's listen in.
People who probably occupy responsible positions in society. And then we just keep telling each other stories when we need to move forward with this case. I hope that this parliament will not only amend the law that we are going to propose to them, but we should consider probably much more stiffer penalties, so that, you know, moving drugs around is a capital offense. And then we have, you know, because if you're destroying our children, you're destroying our lives and you're destroying our future. That's what it means in practical terms. So, friends, this is a serious problem we have. But I want to start first of all by thanking you, especially our colleagues from the two agencies, from the police department, from the National Government Administration, for the great work that you continue to do to support communities. Much of that is always beyond the call of duty, to ensure that we address these things that are likely to destroy our society, as it were. And any society that does not care about its young people and young population is a society that is going to disappear anyway. And so, perhaps one first thing I want to say today, honestly, is that it is time for us to have a honest and candid conversation on illicit brews and drug trafficking in our country. I was at the UN meeting, last December, when I was acting CS Interior. The statistics that the UN give you about the movement of drugs across our borders and so on are very harrowing. And you know, people offhandedly say, oh, the government should do something about it. We have gotten to this habit where the government should do something about it. So the government is supposed to do something about everything in our lives. But it's time for us to be responsible people. And I'm happy to see religious leaders in this audience. One suggestion I was going to make, PS and my colleagues, is that we now need to push this conversation to a frontal engagement with faith-based leaders so that we have a concerted effort. What we are doing ourselves as government, we bring in other social sector agencies that can work with us. We address these issues. We clean up our politics and see whether some of our politics facilitates the kind of things that we are dealing with. And clean it up and sensitize our people. And see if we can, work on ways that will address this. We may lie to each other and speak to each other, engage in PR and so on and so forth. But the truth of the matter is that we will lose our children. We will lose our young people. We will lose families to what we are dealing with today. This is a serious issue. So we are interested in results. And before I end this remarks, I am going to talk briefly about the sustainability of what we are doing. So I'm grateful to NACADA and all of us who are here today for coming together to look at standards, public health, counterfeits, and revenue dimensions of what we are dealing with today. One of the challenges we have faced, and you all know, is that the devolution of licensing to counties has complicated our situation. It has led to the mushrooming of bars, most of which are not licensed, as a result of weak or non-compliance of licensing committees with clear guidelines to regulate the sector. As a former Minister of Education, one thing I need to tell you is that the painful reality is that we are seeing bars and areas that sell drugs next to schools and learning institutions. And reference has been made here to the survey that was done in 2016 and what it showed about, these institutions and what happens near our schools. And most of these institutions thereby becoming centers of alcohol and drug abuse. And the effect of that is that our young boys and girls are getting hooked onto drugs. I experienced this, practically the burning of schools, arson and crimes that happen in schools, many of them associated with the consumption of drugs and illicit alcohol. I put up a team that was led by Claire Omolo from the Office of the President. And this team, which was multi-sectoral, put together a fantastic report and clearly pointed out that one of the challenges in our schools now is access to illicit brews and consumption of drugs and substance abuse by our children. At the national level, our president has clearly articulated a Big Four agenda that will focus on universal healthcare, manufacturing, affordable housing, and food security. Let us not lie to each other. Consumption of illicit brews, drugs, and substance abuse will undermine our achievement of these objectives if we are not very careful. Because alcohol and drug abuse are enemy number one to any form of development. In some parts of our country, economic activity has been affected heavily by alcohol and drug abuse. And as the president works hard to ensure that we achieve the Big Four agenda, now, more than ever before, we need to be very serious and determined to fight drugs and alcohol abuse so that they do not undermine the investments we are going to make in the development of our country as we move forward. Provision of universal healthcare, for example, is going to be challenged because we need a healthy workforce. And a workforce that is affected by drugs and alcohol abuse will not be a healthy workforce. If I gave Dr. Mbacho an opportunity to speak to us, he would tell us for sure that we are better off engaging in preventive care than investing resources to treat people. And preventive care includes ensuring that our people are not hooked onto, are addicted to drugs and substance abuse. So, as we re-energize this effort today, we must carry it out with the understanding that we are creating a conducive environment for the implementation of the Big Four. And actually, this campaign we are going to do is called the campaign of confronting enemy number one to the achievement of the Big Four. This campaign is intended to confront enemy number one to the achievement of the Big Four. And our enemy number one is alcohol and drugs abuse. And we have to carry out this campaign with that zeal, knowing as we must that if we don't succeed, of course there is no room for failure here, we will affect the pace and the rate of achievement of the Big Four. We must therefore commit ourselves to this important national exercise, dedicate our time and resources to eliminate the vice of illicit alcohol and drugs from our communities and promote compliance by business to all laws, regulations, and standards regulating the sector, which are clearly set out in your respective legal instruments. And in moving forward, I am gratified that we have formed teams and we are going to work together. Our president has been fervently promoting a one government approach to every activity we do. We are one government. Whether we are NACADA, whether we are National Administration, Kenya Revenue Authority, Ministry of Health, National Police Service, and Counterfeit Authority, or Kenya Bureau of Standards. We are all one government. We are serving one people in one nation, and we are one government. We must work as one. And there is abundant evidence that every time we work as one, every time we cross ranks, we reduce our focus on turfs, we manage our egos, we do better and we succeed. And therefore, I want to urge you, my colleagues, especially those of you who are going to the field, all of you, that we are one team. We, of course, are brothers and sisters because God has placed us in this wonderful country. But in doing this work, we are one team, which means we have to work together, plan together, and focus to ensure that we have achieved our results. As always, I want to urge you to be fearless in the implementation of the law, to be ruthless when you stand on the truth. Check the appropriateness of some of these bars and their locations, especially the distance from institutions of learning, especially for persons under the age of 18, and distance from residential areas. Check the validity of their licenses and please close them down. Don't listen to stories. Just simply close some of these places down. I know they make money and therefore they attempt to compromise us, but my friends, we should be firm on this. Ensure and check the security of some of these premises. Compliance with public health standards as outlined in the Public Health Act. A few months ago, before I knew that or even imagined that I would ever find myself in the Ministry of Interior, I used to watch PS Kibicho and Inspector General Boynet and the others. Anne Getich was Regional Commissioner in Central, going to places, pouring these drinks. And I asked myself, every time I saw that on TV, I never imagined I would ever have anything to do with this anyway. But life is what it is, I'm here. I used to ask myself, that thing goes into someone's body? It looks like poison in the first place. So people willingly actually consume poison? And then, when I listen to stories and anecdotal information from colleagues in the security sector about what people do with the brewing of those illicit things, I keep asking myself the question, surely, if there was a curse to any population in a country, it's the curse of those illicit drinks. How on earth, why can you drink water? Why must you drink those things? People mix all manner of things. I'm told acid, formalin from the mortuary. So you actually willfully consider yourself a corpse before you die. You consume, those kinds of things. Why must we get to that point? So, good people, it's very sad. Let's remain firm on this and try to help our people.